Hafaday and good morning, everyone. The Committee on Higher Education and the Advancement of Women, Youth, and Senior Citizens calls this public hearing to order. The time now is 9:07 a.m. Today we will hear testimony on Bill number 197-35 and on the appointment of Agapito Diaz to the UOG Board of Regents. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here today. I'd like to recognize the presence of my colleagues, Vice Speaker Talina Nelson, Senator Pito Terlahi, Senator Therese Terlahi, and Senator Telo Taidagui Situasmasi for being here for this hearing. We will first hear testimony on Bill number 197-35. The University of Guam is the primary U.S. land-grant institution that is accredited by the Western Association of Schools and Colleges, Senior College. The university is essential to developing, cultivating, and producing educated individuals in our community and beyond. The University of Guam Charter, codified at 17 Guam Code Annotated, Chapter 16, Section 16130, states that amendments to the Charter can be made through a resolution signed by 7 members of the Board of Regents. The request must be written and approved by Legislator Guahan. These changes have long been in the works. The Board of Regents approved changes to the University of Guam Charter with Board Resolution 19-11 on February 13, 2019. It is the most comprehensive update to the UOG Charter in decades. We live in a time where there exists evolving educational needs in the emerging era of individuals who wish to be more educated and independent. This is the same for the University of Guam as an institution. In order for the institution to reach its full potential, there needs to be an update in its ability to diversify sources of revenue, grow as a university, manage its employees, and promote the sustainability of the island and region. Bill 197-35 authorizes UOG to enter into public-private partnerships to generate revenue for the university to supplement its budget. Bill 197-35 also allows the university the flexibility to amortize long-term financing for up to 10 years. During a time of climate change crisis, the bill also codifies the University of Guam Center for Island Sustainability as an integral part of the mission of the University of Guam and the entire region. The bill would also provide an employment framework for technical and professional staff at the university and allow procurement flexibility, which are necessary for the university to keep up with the technology of today and the future. So we'll now hear testimony. We will begin with the current President, Thomas Christ, followed by the immediate past President, Dr. Robert Underwood. Please state your name for the record.
I'm Thomas Christ, President of the University of Guam. Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators, for this opportunity to testify. The 10th President of the University of Guam has an appointment, so I'd like to yield to him first for his testimony, and then I'll follow. And let me introduce the others presenting here today. To my left, far left, is Randy Wiegand, the Vice President for Administration and Finance. And then to my immediate left is Dr. Anita Enriquez, the Senior Vice President for Academic and Student Affairs. To my right is Mark Bituin, the President of the Student Government Association of the University of Guam. And then the 10th President of the University of Guam, Dr. Robert Underwood.
Thank you
now please, if Dr. Underwood would present his testimony.
It's been a long time since I said this, but I thank the gentleman for yielding. Buenos dias todos hamdu, Madam Chair and members of the Committee on Higher Ed. I'm testifying in support of Bill 197 to assist in the transformation of the University of Guam to meet the challenges of the 21st century. Societies and universities are never static entities, and our institutions of higher education must be at the forefront of social, economic, and government progress. In order to achieve these lofty aspirations, universities are organized to fulfill comprehensive teaching, research, and service missions. For Guahan and for much of the region, this institution has historically been the University of Guam. These purposes are encapsulated in the full meaning of INA, Descubri, and SETBI. In order to facilitate the partnership between the Government of Guam and the University of Guam, on behalf of our future progress and future generations, UOG must be given the tools and the flexibility to develop programs, build facilities, and take advantage of our greatest asset, our intellectual resources. The university has made incremental steps along the way in order to achieve greater autonomy. The university is no longer just another GovGuam agency dependent upon public funding. In 2002 was the last year in which 50% of the money spent by the university was provided by GovGuam operations. That's over 17 years ago. Since that time, the percentage of Government of Guam support has continued to decline. This is the product of flat funding the university. In fact, the same amount of dollars has been appropriated to the university since the early 1990s when I was academic vice president. Under numbers adjusted for inflation, keeping the same numbers, the university would be receiving $50 million in annual appropriations. Despite flat funding, we still expect the university to carry out visionary projects, and it has done so in spite of the challenges. But unfortunately, this is no longer sustainable. I believe that the institution can meet these challenges if given the flexibility to enter into partnerships, allowed a line of credit, and provide different employment systems for students and part-time employees. Many of these ideas are outlined in the proposed legislation. I would have suggested even greater autonomy, but the university, at the end of the day, is a public institution. And I think we all recognize that, and we all recognize that we're a partnership and that we put the best foot forward for the island. I support the intent of the legislation. I look forward to an institution supported by the Government of Guam. The investment is well worth it. Just as a kind of a point of pride so that people sort of understand the role that the University of Guam has played, and I frequently state this, is that early on it was decided to give people from the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands resident tuition. This is the only public institution that provides resident tuition for people who are basically not residents and don't put anything into the coffers. There are many examples of regional institutions around the world, but they're usually provided assistance by participating governments. The University of Guam is the leader for this region because of that early commitment. And that early commitment was made by the people of Guam. And I frequently tell our friends and neighbors in the region, the University of Guam is the best gift that has ever been given to the region. This is a far-reaching commitment, and it has benefited the institution, and it's benefited our own island. So I'm very much in support of this legislation, and of course I know that you will work your will on it, and I'm sure that President Christ and his able group here will provide great testimony, and I appreciate letting me go first. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Underwood. Dr. Kreis?
Thank you, President Underwood, and thank you, Madam Chair. And so I think I'll give my presentation, then I would like to allow the President of the SGA to give a presentation as well. So this original draft of this bill was initiated by Dr. Underwood, of course, my predecessor. The thinking behind the bill was a concern that the government of Guam was reducing its support for higher education in Guam. If UOG was going to survive and thrive and help all of Guam survive and thrive, it would have to be able to find alternative sources of revenue. However, if UOG is going to be able to create alternative revenue sources, it cannot continue to function as a 20th century university. It needs to have the same flexibility as mainland universities it competes with for resources. It needs to become a 21st century institution. This bill was in process when I became president, and I concur with Dr. Underwood that this bill is a needed step in the right direction. The following are some highlights of the changes in the proposed bill. First is a creation of a new class of employees. Currently, most UOG employees fall into one of two groups: academic employees, which include faculty and administrators who are subject to the rules and regulations adopted by the Board of Regents, and classified employees who are subject to civil service rules and restrictions. We have found that many universities have a third category called something like professional and technical employees. Bill number 19735 allows the Board of Regents to create a new class of employees called professional, technical, federal, and externally funded employees. This is a class of highly skilled employees who have college degrees or technical certifications that do not require civil service protections. This action will follow the prior actions of the legislature in allowing the Port Authority of Guam, the Guam Water Works Authority, the Guam Power Authority, the Guam Airport Authority, and others to create a separate class of highly skilled employees not subject to the pay restrictions of civil service employees. The second element of this bill regards student employees. The bill exempts student hires from being assessed charges related to employee benefits of full-time employees of the government. We believe that getting some real-world experience at the university while students are attending the university is an important part of preparing them for the workplace on a full-time basis. Lifting the requirement to pay employee benefits for these employees will enable the university to provide this type of student experience to a wider group of students. Third regards borrowing authority. The bill will allow the university to enter into short-term borrowing without requiring legal action. The university has been working on a project to reduce electricity usage by upgrading campus equipment with more energy-efficient equipment. The university desires to retain the ability to enter into short-term borrowing arrangements on an ongoing basis without requiring legal action. Fourth is the Center for Island Sustainability. The bill deletes references to the defunct Natural Energy Institute at the university and recognizes the work of the Center for Island Sustainability that has been going on for the last several years. Fifth is the Sea Grant program. The bill recognizes that the university is not only a land-grant university, but also a sea grant university, and creates a special fund for sea grant purposes. Sixth is the Secretariat of Pacific Regional Environmental Program. The bill designates the university as the official Guam representative of the Secretariat of Pacific Regional Environmental Program. There have been many years in which UOG was not the representative, but since we have been named the island representative, it has become clear that we are the appropriate entity to tap into these resources on behalf of the island. Seventh is procurement changes. Many of the resources UOG uses for classroom instruction are materials purchased off-island. The prohibition against advance payments has made it very difficult to purchase needed materials in the modern economy. UOG seeks to affirm its ability to create its own procurement regulations and to expand the use of the sole source procurement method for classroom materials and purchases of web services. And eighth concerns long-term contracting. UOG seeks to follow the lead of many mainland universities by entering into collaborative public-private partnerships, relationships with the private sector that will enhance the educational experience and opportunities for UOG students. This authorization is patterned after similar authorizations given to the Guam Water Works Authority and the Guam Power Authority. For these reasons, we are in support of Bill number 19735 and encourage an expeditious review by the Guam legislature. Si tuits maasi, and now I'll designate the president of the SGA for a statement.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kreis. Mr. Batuin?
Half-a-day. My name is Mark Allen Between, the 58th Student Government Association President. First, I would like to thank you, Madam Chair, and the other senators of the committee for giving us this time to give our testimonies about the amendments to this bill. I am here to express how I am in favor of this bill to allow the university to expand on its public-private partnerships in order to diversify the revenue streams of the university. As a student and a member of the Student Government Association, I am learning more about how it has been facing since 2016. I applaud the administrators, faculty, staff, and the whole EOG committee in their efforts to ensure the students are not affected by the situation. On the other hand, I do understand the difficulties when it comes to allocating funds when so many factors are influencing on the decisions. Last month, the Board of Regents passed a resolution that allows the president of the university to raise tuition up to 5% per semester, but also giving the authorization to say whether or not the tuition will be raised if the university receives additional funds at that time. With this decision, students were relieved that the tuition we will be paying wouldn't be increasing at an alarming rate. Giving the university more financial independence will allow it to create more public-private partnerships to generate more funds for the university. Receiving more funds from different streams will allow university to progress in ways it has been trying to do. Infrastructures can be improved, more faculty and staff can be hired, more research can be conducted, tuition wouldn't have to increase, and so much more. All these benefits align to the university's mission of INA, Descubre, and SETB. With that being said, I am in full support of this bill as a student who is concerned about the progression of the university. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Batuan. Dr. Enriquez, will you provide testimony today?
Bananas juice. Thank you very much for allowing us to be entertained for this particular bill. Long overdue from our end, given a lot of the challenges the university has been facing. I'd like to speak on behalf of our student employees that the University of Guam has currently. We have approximately 350 student employees, which make up a very diverse group of students who are exposed not just to a form of ensuring that they can afford a university education, but also amazing experiences with our scholars, our scientists, with different industries, and so forth. Almost 2/3 of these students are funded through federal and external funds. And we have the Federal Work-Study program that employs about 150 students. We have just a total of I'd say about a total of at least 200 students who are funded through the federal government. Others are funded through paid internships, through teaching assistantships, through research assistantships, through extension assistantships, through research fellowships. And it's amazing what that does to a student's morale. It's amazing what it does to improve upon their overall value as students, but also as contributors to our local economy. And so what this bill would provide is an opportunity to reduce the extra imposed requirement of paying into these extra benefits that classified employees are subjected to. And so what we want to do under this whole proactive college affordability initiative that I have been leading with our team from the Division of Enrollment Management and Student Success is to look for ways in which we can put more monies into the pockets of our students. So with the reduced requirement of these benefits that students are challenged with, it will put more money into these students' pockets. And that is really where I am coming from, so that we can do more for our students in this regard. I believe that when we do this, we'll also free up some of the externally funded and federal grant funded types of accounts so that we can hire more students. So with this, I hope that you will support the intent of this bill before us this morning, and Sizus Masi for your time.
Thank you very much, Dr. Enriquez. Andy?
So I'll be quick. A lot of this, as President Kreis had said, grew out of the efforts of Dr. Underwood and the Good to Great program that he had started, and there were many employment issues that came to light during the G2G review process, and a lot of different methods were looked at as ways to solve those issues. But it all came down to the best way is to come to the legislature and try to address some of these through legislation. And so that's what we're trying to do with the changes to the creation of a new class of employees. And also just, we've been running into some procurement issues with more and more commerce is being shifted to the internet, and the current regulations and laws were adopted before the internet was even a thought, and the advance purchase restriction has been an increasing impediment for us to carry out our mission. And so we're looking forward to having a small sliver of exclusion from the advance purchase requirement for educational materials. So we're in support of the bill.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wiegand. Is there anyone else who would like to testify on Bill 197-35? Okay, I'd like to open it up for questions, starting at my left, Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Dr. Kreis, in your testimony, item 2, you stated that student employees and the bill will exempt student hires from being assessed charges related to employee benefits of full-time employees of the government. We believe that getting some real-world experience at the university while students are attending the university is an important part of preparing them for the workplace on a full-time basis. Lifting the requirement to pay employee benefits for these employees will enable the university to provide this type of student experience to a wider group of experience. My question is what type of employee benefits for students is UOG required to pay currently, and what is the cost? Anyone?
If I could take
Yes,
that.
please.
Every GovGuam classified, unclassified employee is assessed it's like 25% of the unfunded liability charge, and that the students will never benefit from that. It seems like that's it's prohibitive. It reduces the number of students that can benefit from student hiring programs when we have such a high threshold to meet for those payments. It may be closer to 20%, but then also the defined contribution, 5% contribution, also has to be assessed. That again will never benefit them as being just a part-time employee, not able to achieve vesting with the government. So those are examples of the benefits that they should be excluded from.
Can you explain what the unfunded liability charge is?
Yeah. So every year, all GovGuam agencies are assessed an ongoing rate to meet the pension obligations for the defined benefit plan. And there's also an assessment every year that's made on the past due payments to make up for the unfunded liability of the retirement fund. That's being amortized over, I believe, a 30-year period. But that's a significant assessment. And currently, every GovGuam employee, whether you're in the defined benefit plan or not, get assessed that additional amount, just to make up for the unfunded part of the retirement liability.
And what is the cost that UOG is currently paying at this rate for the unfunded liability charge?
No, I'm sorry, I hadn't thought about that for a while. I think it is a little bit under 20% that we're paying for every employee.
And what is that?
Oh,
Well,
in amounts?
we're primarily talking about the students because this bill is focused on the students. What is that cost right now?
Like a total cost?
Yes.
you know, in dollars, it's probably, it could be like 500,000. So it's not a real big amount, but it's money that could be used for other, we could use that money to hire other students rather than just going to the government. And it seems like even though student hiring got caught up in the general laws of hiring of the government, it seems like student hiring is really different and should be exempted from that.
And does UOG provide health benefits for the students?
We do not.
No health insurance option. How about, does the university itself, do they pay a health fee so that they could see a nurse or a doctor on site?
We have a nurse that's hired to deal with issues that come up, and sometimes our nursing school also gets brought into some student issues that come up. So there are ways for us to take care of health issues that come up.
What is the classification of the nurse? Is this a nurse practitioner? Is this someone that can prescribe medication if a student is sick?
No. Sometimes it's our, it's
An
an
RN? Okay. Will this impact their, any Social Security payments for the students?
No.
Do the students get Social Security? Can you say it for the record, please?
Yes, they get Social Security.
And this bill will not impact the Social Security benefits for the
Yeah,
students?
that's required by federal law, so that will have to continue to be taken out.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much, Vice Speaker. Senator Terlahi?
Thank you very much. I want to just say thank you very much for everybody to share this wonderful moment with all of us. Just a couple of questions that I just need some kind of an elaboration on what you have mentioned, ma'am. The reduction, to reduce the requirement for students, what are we talking about? Can you elaborate on that? Is that an advantage or disadvantage when you mentioned that?
I'm sorry.
The reduction requirements for students?
Well, no, it has to be with what Mr. Wiegand had just mentioned, the required deduction for benefits. That's almost 20%. And so that's a cost to the student that we want to reduce so that it puts more money into their paychecks.
So it's good for the students?
It's good for the students,
Okay.
yes. Thank you.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up is the 200 federal students that are being paid through federal funding.
Yes.
What are the categories and the classification of employees are these?
So
What you're talking about?
Thank you for that question. The federal work-study program is under the federal financial aid umbrella. And so we are able to provide 150 students employment opportunity, part-time employment within the university campus to make it convenient for them. They work up to 20 hours a week, and they're paid at the minimum wage rate. And so so that makes up the bulk of that figure. The others are hired for particular federal grant-funded programs. They may be hired as a research assistant or a research associate to help fulfill the scope of requirements for that particular grant. It could be a contract that the University of Guam has as well that is federally funded. And so there are different ways in which we can provide students employment in their respective fields, but with the work study, there's a lot more latitude. Students can choose to work in the library, or they can choose to work out in the field with our cooperative extension, research, faculty, and so forth. So it's a very diverse experience for them.
So that's basically the same with the 350 students that are employed by the university. It's basically the same type of program, right?
Right. So it's an umbrella of different kinds of part-time student employment opportunities. The others are teaching assistants and research assistants that may be hired by faculty to support courses that are being taught. And so that is certainly based on an application. All of these are based on an application process, but it just depends on the courses. It also depends on the type of research discipline to which the research assistant or associate is being assigned.
So being on that the type of program, so the University of Guam reserve, they compensate these students?
We pay students for these, yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Terlahi. Senator Therese Terlahi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for your testimony. The bill does many things, so I'm going to try to keep it straight here. But so the first one, of course, is the students taking them out of the regular, from being treated as regular employees. So removing their retirement benefits is pretty much it, because they're not getting health benefits, you said. So, and I just wanted to hear again from the student rep that the students agree with this. I can see how it's fiscally beneficial to the university, but the students agree?
Yes, I believe that many of the students do look into the benefits that they receive, and receiving more money into their pockets is what a lot of us really look into, specifically if we don't really benefit with the retirement plan. So a lot of the students apply for these work studies for the job, part-time student employees at the university, because tuition right now is increasing, and we do try to look for ways that we can cover the cost for it. And the work studies at the university that's offered is a great way for us to apply to, because it is on campus already. We can go to work and then go to class at the same time or the same day. So receiving that extra money into our pockets is a great benefit for us.
All right. I can understand wanting the extra money in your pocket, but for all of us at my age, the earlier you start your retirement, the better savings, right? But I'm going to take your word on that then for the students that they agree to this. How much of government of Guam funding is used to pay for student work studies? Any?
No, this is all funded
Federal.
by the federal government, yes.
All right. Did I hear you correctly that the 2/3 of students' tuition is paid by federal funds?
Oh,
What was that 2/3 statistic?
Almost 2/3 of the 357 are funded through the U.S. federal government. Yes.
The 357 what?
357 total students who are employed at UOG.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So we're trying to save, the university is going to save money. Instead of paying the retirement fund for these students, we can keep that money and use it in
To hire
any
more
other
students.
ways.
It's to hire more students.
To hire more students, okay.
Or to give them more hours.
Right, it really does,
Right.
the bill doesn't really control that. It just says that you will get that savings at the university. And then the bill changes the classification for professional, technical, federal, and externally funded personnel. So how would this physically or, financially affect the university? Because you want to treat them now as academic personnel, and so how does that impact the university financially?
Financially, we're not planning on making any immediate changes to pay, but it gives us flexibility in the future to make those changes as appropriate. But what it will do is allow us to clean up some. One issue that has come up is we have federal employees, for instance, who if we have a grant, we hire them, and then it's a one-year contract, and if we get the grant for the next year, then we'll hire them for another year. And so some of these people can be hired for a number of years, but when they go to the bank and we give them a verification of employment, it says they have a contract that runs another 6 months or 7 months, and the bank is saying, well, I don't think I want to give this. This would allow this class to be created that says you're an employee, and we expect that you're going to remain an employee unless something happens. We'll still have the ability to let them go if the grant doesn't come through, but it gives them the ability to be considered a full-time regular employee of the government.
So it doesn't really achieve a savings necessarily for the university to transfer these employees. Does it incur an additional cost?
Well, eventually, a big part of what's driving this also is the ability to keep and retain IT professionals. And we are foreseeing in the future that we're going to have to do a better job of compensating those people to keep them at the university. But just due to our financial situation at the current time, we're not planning to make an immediate adjustment for those people.
All right, so this provision in particular does not affect our ability to prevent a further tuition increase necessarily. It has no impact on that. All right. All right, and then the section on, there's two sections here regarding borrowing. So this would allow the university to borrow, it changes the law to allow the university to borrow for up to 10 years without legislative approval. Is there a difficulty that the university is having obtaining legislative approval for borrowing?
It's just a long, cumbersome process, and we were approached by the Guam Power Authority about 2 years ago with a program that they have to work with some of their customers to become more energy efficient, reduce the footprint of the demand for electricity on campus, and so we've been working with them, but it requires borrowing, and so that means we have to come with a bill, and I mean it can take a long time, and we'd like to have the flexibility that a lot of our brother and sister universities have for the shorter term borrowing. They can just go without seeking the approval of the legislature.
The last, I guess, pledge that I remember is related when the government of Guam, the legislature, I wasn't in the legislature at that time, but they transferred title to the property that was in the government of Guam, I guess, to either the university or the University Endowment Foundation so that they could use that as collateral for borrowing. And I think that they've done that with several properties along the cliff line also, to add that to the University of Guam's inventory so that it could increase their financial, at the time that it was, the same argument was being made, that it would increase their financial ability, to have that in their inventory. So when you pledge these for this borrowing up to 10 years, or will you be using the land as collateral? What do you use?
We would use just a pledge of our future revenues and the equipment that's being purchased also. So if the lender, if we don't follow through on the commitment, the lender can take the equipment back.
Could you give an example? What revenues would that be?
No, I mean, it would be our tuition revenues, our fees.
So do you have some borrowing that's lined up right now? What amount are you looking at?
It's it's about $4 million. I think it's a little less than $4 million to go into several of our buildings and change out lighting to be more energy efficient, put in new air conditioning equipment to be more easily controlled, and so it can automatically go up at night when there's nobody there, and then start to come down again automatically in the morning. and save us money on our electricity bills.
All right, I can see the savings in electricity from the plan like that, but the pledge of the revenue, does that affect the student tuition?
I think this is gonna, these things should enable us to save money rather than
At the
spend-
end of the project, when you save money
Well,
from
no,
the energy?
Yeah, I mean,
But not the borrowing, because you're going to incur costs in borrowing.
yeah, no, the whole idea is that we do the project, we save money on our power bill, and then out of the savings, we pay back the borrowing, so that we wouldn't do it if there were not a positive savings to the university in addition to being able to pay back the.
All right, thank you. And then, so the other section in the bill is regarding long-term leases. And so the university wants the authority to be able to enter into a long-term lease up to 30 years without legislative approval again. Right now, the rest of the government is restricted to leases of up to 5 years without legislative approval, and anything else has to come in. Even the port has been asking for an extension of that type of authority, but it has not been granted. And again, is there an issue with coming to the legislature for approval for leases up to 30 years? How does, giving the university the authority to bypass legislative approval going to assist the students in their, from avoiding tuition increases?
Well, do you want to?
Well, I can just remark that the increasing the types of revenue sources that we have is really important for going forward, and other universities are doing exactly that. So public-private partnerships really require a longer-term commitment, and so I anticipate that we'll see more of the public-private partnerships, not just at UOG, but throughout Guam. And actually, it would be important for more parts of the government to be involved in public-private partnerships in order to make Guam attractive for those kinds of investments. So the structure of them requires a longer term from the very beginning. And so just to even begin to talk to a partner, you need to be able to be, rather than, you don't sort of set it all up and then go ask for permission to do it, right? So in order to have the agreement and the partnership, it would be better and we would be more successful if we had a longer term commitment from the beginning, ability to make a longer term investment from the beginning. So all of these are trying to get at more sources of revenue, more efficiency, as well as environmental sustainability, which is part of this bill as well. So those are all parts of that effort. So
Yeah, I understand. I think that, there are other agencies in the government, even autonomous agencies, who've asked for this type of authority. But we've also seen the reverse where, there are bad deals for the government, I guess, that are entered into, and it's the government that ends up paying for those. And so it was an effort to avoid that, where that restriction was put into place. For example, the whole YTK issue revolves around this ability to lease for more than 5 years or not. But I think the legislature, at least me personally, I don't see any issue of, getting these things through the legislature that are beneficial to the university, that are beneficial to the people of Guam. And legislative approval to me just adds another layer of scrutiny. And if it's a good deal, it should not, be held up. But, and again, it's because some of these assets that are being leased were really, transferred to the university. I don't think with the intention that they would, be leased out for that long. But anyways, there are a couple other items in this bill. I don't want to take up all the time. Maybe if we can come another round. Thank you.
Okay, there's one follow-up question for this line of questioning from the Vice Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wiegand, you mentioned tuition revenues that are used for bond. Do you have, or any borrowing measures, do you currently pay any of the tuition revenues for any current bond or borrowing measures?
No.
So 100% of the tuition revenue and fees go directly to the university operations?
Yes.
It's not used to pay off anything at this time?
No.
Was it used at a certain time to pay off anything in the past?
We had a bond in 1993 that got paid off about a little over a year ago. And on paper, we had pledged our tuition and non-appropriated revenue streams for that. But over time, it ended up that DOA just took it over and reduced our allotment by $2 million every year. So we really haven't, so in practicality, all our non-appropriated revenue have been used directly for operations at the university for probably 15 or 20 years.
Can you say that again? DOA over time took out what?
So DOA just started paying the debt. We were part of a larger
Yes.
GovGuam borrowing, and so DOA just every month they would just reduce our allotment by 1/12 of the debt service, and they'd pay the debt service for us.
Okay.
So we haven't directly paid that debt service for many years.
And it's been completed a year and a half
It's
ago.
done. Yep.
Would this result in some of the arguments that we've had in the past, or the semantics of the situation where they say that UOG was shorted their allotments? Is this some of the revenue that they were shorted? Did they line that up to that kind of semantics? Okay, so this is understanding that this is not a shortened allotment, this was the payout that UOG was on.
Yes, yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Senator Titlegy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, everybody, for being here this morning. And Merry Christmas to everybody. I was hoping that Dr. Underwood would still be here. The guy likes to ninja in and out a lot of times. Especially I wanted to ask him, since this was a bill that was originated from him a while ago, I noticed it has a lot of subject matters in it. And just so that there's no surprise, I am requesting legal to look at this legislation because of the germaneness, being that there's so many subjects into it. And I think that each one of them are very important. Of all the the proposes in this legislation, from borrowing to the students' employment, to SPC, Secretary of the Pacific, sustainability, it really deserves its own legislation and allow more scrutiny to it and to be able to create a better bill. So I will be questioning that, Madam Chair, on the germaneness.
Yes.
to
Thank you very
legal.
much for that, Senator Titlegy. And I do want to share for the record that legal provided some recommendations just yesterday. And so I will be sharing that with
good.
the
That's
committee
good.
and using those recommendations in the committee report and the amended version of the bill.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. And that leads me to the opportunity to hear mostly from the students themselves, especially with regards to this section of the bill. And if it has its own legislation, then maybe more of the students can come forward and talk about it. So to the student body, when you did speak with the other students, especially those who are employed, did you do a census with them? Did you, and if you did, what kind of census did you did? A voting between the board of the student body, or did you go out to the university and talk to the students?
For now, we just talked within our own student body association, our own group. And then we did speak with students that we do know personally and see their opinions. They are current work-study students. Work-study is it is very competitive. A lot of students that I know, they all talk about if they applied and who got in and if they heard anything back. And so as about our student body, SGA, we talked to them among ourselves, and some of us are part of the work study, so we did come to a conclusion, a census, that we do favor for this change, and we did get feedback from outside students that are just part of the general body themselves. And if further amendments does need to be talked about, then we can gather up a lot more students to voice their opinions and their testimonies.
Right now, there's 357 individuals that are employed right now at the University of Guam, so I think a consensus should be better,
Right.
brought in, a lot more input, considering that amount of students.
Yes.
And would you be amenable to incorporating in the legislation something that says that in the event an employee would like to be a part of their retirement? Some students really think ahead of their future,
Right.
than others do, but the opportunity to put an amendment to allow that kind of choice between a student to allow, no, I'd like to be on the retirement now and incorporate and have a little less salary than if I didn't. So are you amenable to that? That amendment to allow those who would like to be a part of the retirement?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we can of course, do more research on the whole 375 students and see who, the numbers that do support for their retirement and those who just want the extra salary.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. I think the savings also, with regards to the savings you were talking about with this, are you also amenable that we incorporate in the legislation, particularly for this savings, that it does go directly to only student employing salaries? So in other words, you can't use this savings for anything else except the students' salaries for jobs. Are you amenable to that? Okay, that's good to hear. Sorry. If you talk about the borrowing for 10 years that was spoke about earlier, and you want to be able to have this ability to do that, have the freedom to borrow up to that, how would you go through the process within the University of Guam? Would it be the Board of Regents to decide whether you can borrow that money, or would it be something at your level, Mr. President, at the University of Guam?
Senator, that would be a board decision to approve that.
To decide. Okay. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to listening some more of the questions, and I appreciate everyone for being here. Again, happy holidays to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Tydegui. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify on Bill 197? Okay, I'll afford my colleagues another opportunity for questioning. Any other question? Okay. Go ahead, Senator Terlahi, and then Vice Speaker Nelson.
You know, the governor of Guam does have the category of classifications within employees, right? So all these employees that we're talking about, and I understand that all the professors and those that are permanently employed by the University of Guam falls under LS1, right? And those employees that are not permanent falls under LS2. Am I correct?
I'm not familiar
In other
with
words,
those.
right, those employees that falls under LS2 does not accumulate leave time, does not accumulate, other benefits that a regular employee does have. That's what I'm saying.
All our employees, except for part-time, get
No retirement points or something like that if they fall on LS2, right?
We don't have LS2, but I'm not sure what that means.
Well,
but
that's the general term for the Governor of Guam classification, LS1 and LS2. So that's okay. That's okay. We'll discuss that later on.
Vice Speaker?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Wiegand, I believe the question that my previous colleague was trying to ask is that this is a portion of this bill is to lessen the requirements of what is paid to the students for their benefits.
no, actually, because most of this benefit that we're talking about does not. It's really we have to pay it every time we hire a student. We have to pay certain funds to the retirement fund.
Right, every time you hire a student. And so a portion of the bill, because you said no, I'm going to reiterate this, the portion of the bill is lifting that requirement when you
Right.
hire a student,
Right.
correct? Okay. So when you hire a student, are they part-time or full-time?
These are part-time, these are
These are
part-time
part-time
positions.
students. And so even if you hire a part-time student, you are still required to pay a portion into the retirement
Yes, yes.
unfunded liability. Does any of the unfunded liability, does any of the, any portion of the unfunded liability charge, does any of that portion, would the student be able to avail to any of the portion of the unfunded liability charge?
No, because that plan's closed, so it would have no impact on
Okay.
employees, on students.
Now, the 5% defined benefit contribution, would the student be able to avail to that
You have to,
if they were a part-time employee?
you have to work for a certain amount of time, and most students won't meet those requirements to ever become vested in the defined contribution plan.
What do you mean you have to work a certain amount of time?
Yeah, I think to be vested in the plan, there's a certain number of years that you need to, three years before you have any title to the employer's share of the contributions.
So if I'm a student and I only work at UOG for 2 years,
I
You-
believe there's no benefit from the employer contribution, and it will help all the other employees in the government. But
okay.
so I don't believe anything's being taken away from students.
Okay, so can I just finish if I'm a student, I work at UOG for 2 years and I'm paying into this defined benefit contribution, this retirement plan. And then I graduate from UOG, so junior and senior year, I'm working at UOG as a student. And I graduate from UOG and then I move to the government. Will the history of me working at UOG contributing to the defined benefit contribution, this retirement plan, will I be able to avail to when I become a full-time employee with the government?
It might. I'm not. I believe it might not also, and I can get back to you after I clarify that.
Yes, can we please clear that and make some more clarification for that so that the students understand the impact that one, the unfunded liability charge is something that the government pays for liabilities of the past, and then two, the 5% defined contribution that if I work at UOG for less than 3 years and I move to work in GovGuam, can I avail to the history of that work for the retirement? And if we can get that cleared,
I'm certain about the first one, that there's no benefit to employees
Okay.
from the unfunded contribution, but I will get you an answer on the defined contribution part.
thank you, Mr. Wiegand, because I'm thinking that if we can remove the almost 20% for the student for the unfunded liability charge because it will not benefit them, but still keep the defined benefit contribution so they can move forward to work in the government, and if it impacts their work history and their retirement plan, they would be able to avail to that history of work at the UOG for that time, then I think that we should give the student that option. Thank you, Mr. Wiegand.
Thank you, Vice Speaker. Senator Therese Terlahi?
Thank you. I wanted to talk about another section of the bill, and I'm glad that the chair brought up that, for me, the title of the bill is very limited. It says it's to update the charter of the university to facilitate its growth, to meet the educational needs of the region while giving it more financial independence. But the bill, when you look in the details, does many different things, like increasing up to 30 years that they can lease, increasing up to 10 years that they can borrow. And now this section regarding the procurement, so this says, notwithstanding any other provision of law, the Board of Regents is authorized to adopt procurement regulations. So first of all, and then it allows for an exception from advance payment rule. And I understand that you want to be able, and this is limited here to the procurement of textbooks and classroom materials. But then at the end it says, and for internet-based purchases. For textbooks, classroom materials, I have no objection to this exception from the advance payment rule, but otherwise the rest of the government is prohibited from entering into contracts that require advance payment before services or goods are provided. And it also the government procurement law also very clearly favors local procurement, and discourages internet-based purchases. So I guess if you could narrow what you're purchasing on the internet, I think that may be, for me, acceptable, as opposed to just a blanket all internet purchases, because then it seems like we're going to be giving you a blanket out of the local procurement.
Yeah, that's not our intention.
all right.
It's for subscriptions. Mostly we're cloud-based services, but we can get language.
All
We can
right.
get language that will.
Thanks. And then so the top part of this section where it says notwithstanding any other law, UOG, the Board of Regents, going to adopt procurement regulations. Is this to take the university outside of the Guam procurement law?
No, currently, our legal counsel has given us advice, and both our current and prior had advised us that we currently have the ability to adopt our own procurement regulations. We're completely subject to the procurement law, and we've adopted procurement regulations that mostly mirror the GSA procurement regulations. So we will continue to fall under Chapter 5 of Guam Code Annotated.
All right, so you maybe don't need the first portion of this section of the bill, and you just need the exception for the advance payment rule, and limited internet-based purchases, perhaps.
Yeah, I know we were trying to just confirm and just make it firm that we do have the ability to write our own regulations. But
Is
Madam Chair, if it's,
Okay. Mr. Camacho, you can
he's our legal counsel, so he might be able to
please
be
state
more
your name
specific.
for the record and your position at the university.
Anthony Camacho. I'm the interim UOG legal counsel. And good morning, Madam Chair, and Vice Speaker Nelson, and Senator Pito Terlahi, Senator Therese Terlahi, and Senator Tello Tadagui. We would still require, Senator Terlahi, the notwithstanding provision at the top of Section 10 of our proposed law. And the reason for that is, as Mr. Wiegand correctly pointed out, although UOG has the ability to draft its own procurement regulations, it is still subject to many of the chapters in Title V, or basically Guam's procurement law. And one of those Guam procurement law provisions is the general provision prohibiting the advance payments. Now keep in mind, the procurement law was actually drafted in the 1980s, and as has been previously pointed out by President Kreis, that was long before we had the internet. So the notwithstanding provision is still an important provision to give effect to this particular section of the bill.
Attorney Camacho, by what authority does the University of Guam, is it authorized to adopt its own regulations? You're saying it already has adopted its own regulations, it's already exempt from the centralized procurement regime of the government of Guam?
That is correct, and it's not just the University of Guam, so is the Department of Education, and so is the Guam Community College.
Correct. But they're both still required to follow the Guam procurement law.
That is correct. Now, the only thing that really would be exempt from would be the centralized procurement regime under GSA. Likewise, the existing Guam procurement regulations, which are applicable to the executive branch, they're exempt from those as well because they're authorized to draft their own, but they are subject to most of the chapters in Guam's procurement law.
All right, and so you're saying that authority already exists. So that's why I'm suggesting that if that authority already exists, then this first sentence is either redundant or it's extending authority beyond what you've already been granted. And what you really want is perhaps a notwithstanding for the second sentence, which is the exceptions for advance payment rule, exceptions for internet-based purchases.
That would be correct. But we would still require it just simply because where you find the prohibition against advance payments is in the Guam procurement law portion that would still be applicable to the University of Guam. The University of Guam, despite having the ability to draft its own regulations, can't draft a regulation that's contrary to the law.
Correct, unless we give you this exception.
That is correct.
Right, and so I have no objection to the exception and for these limited purposes, if we can narrow it down, especially on the internet-based purchases. Yes, all right, but thank you.
Thank you, Senator Schlage.
Thank you very much, Senator Terlahi, and for your concerns about the title of the bill. We already have some drafted language to include things like authorizing UOG to enter into the borrowing agreement, authorizing UOG to promulgate procurement regulations, and authorizing the lease and contract of UOG-controlled properties to be added into the language. And then with regards to the procurement, we also have a suggestion from legal counsel to add in the exception in the same part of the code where the Department of Education already has an exception for the online ordering. So that is an option we will be considering for the amended version of the bill. Senator Taitakwi.
And thank you, Madam Chair, for the second opportunity. In this section, the interpretation, your interpretation of this legislation with regards to the 30 years is not only for leases, but do you also feel this is due to contracts as well, just any kind of contract? The way it's written is your interpretation, is that what you intended? Not just leases, but also into contracts?
We've been looking at like long-term public-private partnerships. That's been the focus of that language.
So it's both leases and contracts, it's like property leases to contracts. The way it's written, it does look like that. It gives you that authority on both ends. Is that your intention?
I think the idea is that public-private partnerships sort of may involve both elements, because you can have a contract and financing that extends through the period, because you create a separate sort of organization that then carries out the whole project. I think that's the idea. But the motive of it is to be able to engage in public-private partnerships, Senator.
Do you have any lined up currently?
Yeah, we're currently, we have something lined up for the Guam, the hatchery, the Aquaculture Development and Training Center, the hatchery at Padian.
So you have one, the hatchery?
Yes.
Mr. Wiegand, is there also any firm plans for the international dorm?
They're getting more and more firm, but we're not as advanced as we are with the hatchery.
Okay, but that is another plan down the line.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what was that?
For the international dorm.
Dorm. Oh, the international dorm. Okay. Since this is a land grant university, you have the authority to actually to lease some of the property, since it is a land grant university? I mean, you receive this funding through federal funds, you have the authority to actually do these leases.
All our property was given by the government of Guam. We received a endowment from the federal government in lieu of land, but all the property we own is from the government of Guam, or purchased.
Okay, so there's nothing in the federal law that prohibits you from leasing anything through the land grant because the land was given through government of Guam. The money that you received was not land, it was actually funds, money. Okay, yeah, that's right, okay. Okay, I'm good for now. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Senator Taitigui, and thank you to the panel today. I also want to recognize the other leadership from the University of Guam and our Board of Regents who are here. Thank you very much for being here today, all those who signed up in support of the bill and who testified. So Bill number 197-35 has been publicly heard. Siduos Masi. We will take a short moment's recess. Hafaday, we are back from recess. We will now hear public testimony on the appointment of Agapito Diaz to serve on the University of Guam Board of Regents. According to Title 17, Chapter 16 of the Guam Code Annotated, the Charter of the University of Guam, the University of Guam Board of Regents shall have general supervision over the university and the control and direction of all funds of and appropriated to the university, subject to such restrictions as may be prescribed by law. The board shall set the policies governing the duty and manner prescribed by law. The board, on recommendation of the administrative officers and the faculty, shall establish personnel rules and regulations guiding selection, employment, salary, and other compensations, promotion, performance, evaluation, disciplinary action, and all other conditions of work and employment as herein provided. Such rules and regulations shall reflect the paramount objective of directing all efforts of the university's mission and promoting stability and credibility of the territory's highest institution of learning. So we have some individuals here today who have signed up to testify and who have signed up in support of the appointment. Mr. Agapito Pete Diaz is here, and we'll save you for last, Mr. Diaz, and we will begin with Mrs. Herrero from the University of Guam Board of Regents.
Good morning, Madam Secretary Amanda Shelton, Senator Teresa Laje, and Senator Chalo Taitagui. My name is Maria Flor Herrero, and I am presently the Vice Chair of the Board of Regents of UOG. I am also the Chair of the Nominating Committee of the University of Guam, and as such, my job, together with my committee members, is to see to it that we seek a pool of the best possible candidates from which we can select the nominees in order to fill the position of regents as the need arises. The candidates have to be willing and ready to serve the university, as well as the community, and must demonstrate leadership abilities and skills in their respective field or occupation. I believe that Mr. Agapito Diaz is one of our best nominees. And if confirmed, he will become a very good and productive regent. He was born and raised in Guam of Chamorro descent. He attended the University of Guam, and in 2003, obtained a Bachelor's of Arts in Mathematics, completed the pre-engineering program, and graduated with honors, summa cum laude. He was a Merit Scholarship recipient and became a member of the President's List, the Dean's List, as well as a Regent Scholar. In 2006, he obtained a Master of Arts in Civil and Environmental Engineering from the California Polytechnic State University in San Luis Obispo, California. Again, he graduated with distinction, summa cum laude, and was a Professional Technical Award recipient. While pursuing his master's, he worked as an engineering intern for the Regional Water Quality Control Board of San Luis Obispo, California, and soon after he graduated, he became project engineer for Tetra Tech Inc. in San Diego, California. In 2009, he moved to Guam and has been the project manager, civil environmental engineer of AACOM Haggaña Guam ever since, where he is responsible for the company's projects in the Pacific region, including Guam, the CNMI, and Hawaii. In 2013, spring semester, he also became an adjunct instructor in developmental mathematics at the University of Guam, thus completing the full cycle from student to instructor. Therefore, if confirmed, Mr. Diaz will have the opportunity to give back to his alma mater again. Pete, as he is known to friends, has a long list of professional licenses and certificates in the engineering field, has also several publications and awards, and is very active in local civil and professional organizations. Actually, he is the vice chair of the UOG School of Engineering Advisory Council since 2018. Finally, and given the University of Guam is presently engaged in various construction and engineering projects, it is my belief that Mr. Diaz, with his knowledge, professional experience, and skills, will become a great asset to the University of Guam Board of Regents. Thank you for the opportunity to present this testimony.
Thank you very much, Mayor Flor. Dr. Kreis?
Thank you, Madam Chair and Senators, for the opportunity to present on behalf of Mr. Agapito Diaz, professional engineer. I completely concur with Regent Herrera's testimony and would just like to call attention to the importance of Mr. Diaz's role on the board of the Advisory Council for the School of Engineering. So this is a pioneering effort. The advisory board has helped to create the curriculum and every aspect of the university's new School of Engineering, which is very important to all of Guam and the region. And so his role there unusually prepares him for the role as a regent of the university as well. So I completely support the nomination.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Dr. Enriquez?
Thank you, Madam Chair and fellow senators. I fully support the nomination of Mr. Agapito Diaz. And I come from a perspective of many observations of the value that he has extended, not only to the University of Guam, but also in his capacity as a returning merit scholarship recipient who's actually expanded on the value of his credentials by not just earning his bachelor's degree at the University of Guam, but pursuing his master's degree and coming back to contribute in a number of ways, including serving in his professional associations and serving in his private sector employment, but also extending himself to the university in a number of capacities. And what I was very thrilled to see is how he has exemplified himself as a role model for our students and for our alumni. Being the key advisor to the Society for American Military Engineers UOG Collegiate Chapter, and providing opportunities as well for scholarships for our students, not just pre-engineering, but also now with our full Bachelor of Science in Civil Engineering degree. Having this strong, I call it product knowledge or institutional knowledge, is going to be beneficial in his capacity as a prospective member of the University of Guam's Board of Regents, having that perspective as a former student, as an alumnus, as someone who's worked in various industries, as someone who has experience serving on a board, and certainly understanding just the many challenges that our institution has with its current facilities and maintenance umbrella, that his expertise as a professional engineer as well is going to add even more value to the diverse mix of members we have on our board. So thank you for this opportunity, and we hope that you'll also find favor in supporting his nomination.
Thank you very much, Dr. Enriquez. Is there anyone else who wishes to testify for the appointment? Yes. Please state your name for the record.
My name is Sharam Castropano, and everybody call me Dr. K. I am a professor of civil engineering and a professional engineer or PE license for Guam, and also I'm an interim dean of the School of Engineering at UOG. First of all, I would like to express my appreciation to the committee for giving me the chance to speak, and also talk about the challenges that we have been through, and also talk briefly about Mr. Agapito Diaz. I call him Pete, and I know he Pete for many, many years. So, and then my special thanks goes to UOG administration, President Dr. Kreis, and my boss is Dr. Anita, and also the money man, Randy, I think he was here left, for their support and of School of Engineering, and also to member of Advisory Council. Advisory Council, or School of Engineering Advisory Council, are the members that they are executive of Guam Engineering Consultants, federal and Guam agencies, and UOG administrators and UOG alumni. Let me tell a little bit brief about the School of Engineering. The School of Engineering at UOG started from pre-engineering program that established in 1989 to help the need for local engineers for Guam and other islands in Western Pacific. The pre-engineering program, actually I was one of them that I developed that program, was a 2 years non-degree program. Produced just the students that be admission as a junior to a 4-year engineering school that is accredited by ABET. ABET is the organization that they accredit the engineering and technology program. And UOG mission includes meeting the current and growing demand for engineer expertise in Guam and the region private and public sectors. So in September of 2016, the University Board of Regents formally established the new School of Engineering. And in February 2019, the Board of Regents approved to have a 4-year bachelor degree in civil engineering. And then the program went under review by the WASC, and in June of 2019, the program approved by WASC. It means we are officially, and starting in August, in fall of 2019. First of all, I would like to congratulate everyone having a first engineering school in the Western Pacific. And you know, when expand from 2 years non-degree to a 4 years degree program is a lot of challenges that we complete. I put a very short in the other pages, you know, the challenge that we have been pre-engineering established in 1989, then to meet the, according to UOG, mission to, you know, respond to a demand for engineers. The mission, the Board of Regents School of Engineering established in 2016. And then in 2019, they approved, you know, after we went through all the internal review, the accepting to have a School of Engineering, and then WASC approved the program in June or July of 2019, and then we started in August of this 2019. The last challenge for us is to get the ABET certification, and that's going to happen in, I just put it here, 2022. That's a big challenge that we have to go through. But the other challenge that we have complete, we hire about 5 faculty. And you know, hiring the engineer faculty is really difficult. And when you hire somebody, has to be a PE license and civil engineering or this, and it was really hard, but we did it. And then to attract students to the program, we have a program now, we have a summer internship program for students that they are in year 2, they have to go through these things. And that helps to, you know, for example, for summer 2019, we had 20 students, and I'm sure for coming this summer is going to be more. And every agency participates. NAFAC, GPA, GTA, I put this list there. And another one is a student scholarship. And thanks to the advisory council that we have, they do the hiring of students, and also they provide a scholarship for students. And another one is a research, or we hire a student as a research assistant for the project, different projects. And another thing that we're going to tell to everybody should understand, we are become number 8. We are part, we have a SAMI. SAMI stands for American Society, American of Military Engineers. And SAMI is really big help. And we are number 8 in the whole United States. It means of the activities. And so now another one is facility. So temporary we are, we have a place, but the building gonna be under construction. It's gonna be I just put here 16,000 square feet, the contractor and offices and all this stuff, and hopefully you finish by 2021. Now, you're gonna ask me number of students. Number of students is start to going up. We start with 145, 2017, now we have 180 or 200 students, and still registration is ongoing. And we're gonna be, we estimate we're gonna have 5 to 1,000 students in the future. And to have a program is gonna cost money, and thanks to UOG and everybody helping. And one thing is, when we're gonna get the ABET certification, they're gonna do the site visit. And we need to have our laboratory all equipped. And that's gonna cost money to purchase all the equipment and this. I just put a number there, but at this time the university needs money to School of Engineering to be certified by ABET. One good advantage of certified by ABET is we open the door for other students from other places. It means the Chinese, the Korean, all these neighbors, they can come to our school and get their PE license. But doing that things, we need to have a graduate first. So I'm hoping by year of 2021, we're gonna have the 15 students, they're gonna finish the program. And all the agencies, they are asking me, can they hire 15? Can they hire 10? It means for students, all are gonna be higher, I can say. Now, what is the advantage of having a School of Engineering or this one in Guam, having a 4-year degree that is an accredited engineering program will benefit first the local students and families, government agencies, private businesses, and the university graduate program. For example, if you're going to go to a state, each semester you have to pay $15,000 to $30,000. But to come to UOG, finish 4 years, I did the calculation, it's going to cost, if you are local, $35,000. If you are the off-island, is about $63,000 or $64,000 for 4 years. And another one, many families, and they cannot afford to send the students out of, off-island. The students who have talented and interested to be engineer cannot go off-island. They have to change their major, like a math, like different things. And even if they can afford it, the talented students, and I'm just impressed how talented they are. And these talented students, they go off island, when they get degree, they don't come back. So we lose that source. And another one is government of Guam agencies. They have a demand for engineer. And they currently hire off island. And when you hire off island, it's very expensive. And when you bring somebody from other places, they do the temporary consulting, temporary job. When the job finished, they leave the island. And this is my experience after many years by working as an engineer, doing in Guam, in other islands this. There is no feeling, they leave. But when you have a local students, they are happy, and also they belongs to here. So I put here finally all the students in this. I noted it will provide a pool of if you have a school here, pool of the local students with a top skill and prepare for environmental condition in Guam. So, and I have here this, if you look at the other page, the pre-engineering program that I developed in 1989, the goal was to send students to other universities to finish. And then some of them, they came back. And this is why my note, I put some of the students that they came back to Guam, and now they are big top consultant. And you can just see the list, like I have Tom Cruise, for example, is the chief engineer, GWA, and Pete Diaz, working at the ACOM, and all this list here. And really, these are my feeling to all these things. They are like my kids. They are like my boys and my girls, and I enjoy of them, and I'm proud of them. So talk about the Pete. The first time I met Pete, he came 2003, and probably he was 18 years old. He becomes in my pre-engineering program. And I was always impressed. Pete was one of the top students in pre-engineering program. He completed program and later completed his master's degree in civil environmental program at Cal Poly State University in St. Louis. I think we heard these things. And other things, he returned to Guam. And we are very lucky to have him. And I always interested to meet him. And during that time, I was impressed by his math capability. I remember those days I used to put like a competition between students, and he was always becomes number one. And they were kind of mad, students, but that's the way. Pete, another one is Pete is a member of our advisory council member, and he helped me really when we were working during the time that we were working for putting the curriculum together, putting the 4 years curriculum together, and Pete, one of those people that helped me a lot. And another one, when he was the president of the SAMI organization, I'm the students chapter or SAMI organization, and I was dealing with Pete. And he was very generous for helping students, and I'm always proud of him. And to have him as a member of the Board of Regents, it will help us a lot because he is familiar with our engineering curriculum. He can give us advice when ABET gonna do the site visit, and I'm happy to endorse him as a member of the EOG advisory, EOG Board of Regents.
Thank you very much, Dr. K.
Sure.
Okay, Mr. Diaz, you're up.
Buenas Anafide, Madam Chair, Senators Terlahi and Senator Taitagui. My name is Agapito Ada Diaz. I also go by Pete Diaz. I am originally from the village of Maina and now reside in the village of Barrigada. I'm here today to provide testimony for my appointment to the UOG Board of Regents. Part of my life story has been connected to the University of Guam. After graduating from JFK, as you heard earlier, I was fortunate to receive the Merit Scholarship, which allowed me to pursue a college degree here at home. I am a proud alumnus of UOG, having graduated in 2003 with a bachelor's arts degree in mathematics. That's my first connection with UOG. But my ultimate goal was to become an engineer, and for that I needed to leave Guam to complete my education. I was accepted into the engineering graduate program at California Polytechnic State University, Cal Poly in San Luis Obispo, California. Again, I was fortunate to receive another Government of Guam-sponsored scholarship, the ProTech Award, which was overseen by the University Board of Regents. So although I was leaving Guam, I still had a connection to UOG. I was able to leverage all the knowledge and tools that I learned and fine-tuned at UOG and apply them to my engineering studies. In 2006, I graduated with a Master of Science degree in Civil and Environmental Engineering. With the UOG Board of Regents approval, I was able to defer returning home as part of the ProTech Award requirements and remain in California to gain work experience and obtain a professional license before returning to Guam. I began working as a civil engineer in San Diego, working on water and wastewater infrastructure projects. In 2009, I obtained my professional engineering license. With my education complete and a good start to my career, I began looking for opportunities to return home. The opportunity came with my current company, AECOM. AECOM is one of the largest companies providing professional engineering services in the nation. And most important and lucky for me, they had an office here in Guam. So after pursuing my engineering education and career for 9 years off island, I moved back home in 2012. In my current role, I serve as a project manager and manage AECOM's Guam operations. I am responsible for the planning, procurement, and execution of engineering projects involving the design of infrastructure improvements. I have 13 years of professional engineering experience, and I am licensed in California, Hawaii, Guam, and the CNMI. In 2013, one of my former UOG professors and a good friend of mine reached out to me to see if I was interested in teaching part-time as an adjunct instructor in the math department. She was taking an extended leave of absence for medical reasons, and the department was in dire need of instructors to help cover her course load. So I stepped in and I taught 2 classes in a semester. So I can say that I've been a UOG instructor. Yet another connection to UOG. As heard earlier, I'm active in several nonprofit professional organizations, including the Society of American Military Engineers and the American Water Works Association, where I serve in leadership roles and on a board of directors. Both these organizations recognize the need to educate local talent in the field of engineering, and both have donated thousands of dollars to UOG through the Endowment Foundation in support of the new School of Engineering. I currently mentor a UOG student chapter of the Society of American Military Engineers. Most recently, as Dr. K has mentioned, I was voted to serve as vice chair of the advisory council to the UOG School of Engineering. The purpose of the council is to provide perspective and feedback to the School of Engineering's strategic direction and overall objectives, and develop resources to support the school. Again, more connections to UOG. I am committed to the value of higher education because I have firsthand knowledge of where that education has taken me, what has allowed me to achieve, and the positive impact it can create. I am willing to commit my time and energy to the UOG board. With the help of the current board members, I hope to learn more about the challenges faced by UOG, and as I've heard here today, got a crash course of a lot of the issues that the board is facing and the university is facing as well. These include the recent increases to tuition costs, the need to maintain and hire faculty and staff, maintenance and repair of existing equipment and facilities, construction of new facilities, and I'm sure there are many more. I believe in my education, professional experience, volunteer work with nonprofit organizations will serve me well as I take on this new responsibility if I am confirmed. I'd like to thank the University of Guam Board of Regents Nominating Committee, Governor Liu Liang-Guerrero for their vote of confidence in my nomination and appointment to serve as a member of the UOG Board of Regents. I'd like to thank my family, friends and colleagues for their support and encouragement, and I'd like to thank the committee for your consideration as well. It is my hope that once again I can make another connection to the University of Guam by serving on the Board of Regents. Suzu Smazi.
Thank you very much, Mr. Diaz, and I'll open the floor for questions from my colleagues. Senator Terlahi?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm very glad that the chairperson scheduled the two hearings together so that I agree with you. I think it's very helpful, useful for the regents to hear all the discussion on those other topics. So, and I want to congratulate you on your nomination and thank all of those who are here to presented testimony, nominations, and I see your family here. There's a man back there that looks exactly like you. I'm sure it must be your brother. Maybe you have more than one here, but I'm glad that your family's here. Welcome, and thank you for being here. But your resume, of course, I think it's perfect fit for the University of Guam at this time. So I have no questions about that. I want to make sure, will you be employed in the School of Engineering?
No, ma'am.
And does your company subcontract with the University of Guam?
Not at this time, no.
All right. Public-private partnerships envisioned?
Not at this time.
And, all right. That being the case, then I want to thank you for your generosity in using your time to really help the students. I love that you have a direct connection to them. And of the community, of course, Sammy's very, well known in our community, very, all the leaders, many leaders are in this organization and give us a good perspective, I think, of how to help our economy and help all the people of Guam. I only want to close by adding that being on the Board of Regents, I think, it's a fiduciary duty that you have to take very seriously. The people of Guam have given land, they've given their heart, their sweat to the University of Guam because they want the people of Guam to be educated. They know that is the way we are going to be able to sustain ourselves, and we want to do that. So thank you for your contribution to that. And if there's anything that we can do to help you along the way, please feel free and to knock on our doors, call us up anytime. And again, thank you and congratulations.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you very much, Senator Terlahi. Senator Taitigui?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Howdy, Mr. Diaz.
Howdy.
When I don't know a whole lot about you, and that's why I wanted to stay behind and listen to what you had to say. And definitely with the experience that you have behind you, it's a big reflection of your family. To do all those accomplishments that you made, it really takes a strong family to help you get through it. And I just wanted to recognize them. Is that your mom back there? Can I have your mom please stand up? Yeah. I just wanted to recognize her because, behind every strong man is a mom that's there to support you, to make you even better. And I'm pretty sure she's going to continue it on. So I just wanted to recognize her. And of course, your siblings that are here too as well. They're very lucky. Senator Terlahi earlier, said a lot of good things that I wanted to say. And being last, you always have that the end result. But again, I'd like to thank you actually for returning home. Our talent is leaving here and, they tend to not come back. And I want to thank you for coming back to serving your people, and we're all open arms to you for that. This is a six-year term, 6 years.
Yes.
It's long. In fact, I always wondered why the University of Guam had 6 years. Most terms are 4 years. So it might be more appealing to do 4 years. You might get more people wanting to be on the Board of Regents if it's a little bit shorter, but 6 years is a long time. And you look like a committed person once you set your mind to it. So I'm sure that you're going to be able to fulfill these 6 years terms as well. Other than that, I wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Same to you, Senator. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Senator Taitigui. And again, congratulations to you, Mr. Diaz, and I'd like to thank you for your commitment, and I look forward to my colleagues' support for your appointment moving forward. Just One thing that I've talked to many of the other nominees or the appointees about is the sexual misconduct policy of the University of Guam and the need for it to be updated. I'm really concerned and want to see the rates of incidences of harassment and misconduct drop at our university and ensure that all of our students and our faculty and staff feel as safe as possible. So I hope that's something that you can keep in the back of your mind, as well as ways that we can continue to keep tuition affordable for our students. You know, the board recently passed the resolution to allow for the tuition increase, and so I hope that's something else that you'll continue to think about, and you'll bring ideas to the board to help address those needs for all of our students. And again, congratulations, and I look forward to moving your appointment forward.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The appointment of Mr. Agapito Diaz has been duly heard, and this confirmation hearing is adjourned at 10:59 a.m. So just masi everyone, and Merry Christmas to all.